A best-selling book author in Australia, you only need to sell around 10,000 books. Well, Alan and Barbara Pease have already sold nearly 20 million books around the world. In fact, their latest title, The Definitive Book of Body Language, has already sold millions of copies. Let's find out how they built their global empire and what advice they have for others who want to achieve the same. Okay, Alan and Barbara, thanks a lot for joining us on Wealth Creator today.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, firstly, a lot of people, most Australians know you as Mr. Body Language or about your books, but there's quite a large business behind what you're doing now. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it is. The books are, I guess, the face of our business. People know us through the books, and we sell several million books a year. Some years 4 or 5 million books. That's one part of our business. Our audio and training part of the business is the second part, which is DVDs, audio cassettes for those telecassette players, now CDs. And they're training materials for individuals and companies. And then we have the speaking seminar side of the business, which will do maybe 100 seminars or speeches a year. So they're the three elements, and all the revenue we generate from that goes largely into real estate. We're probably too real estated out, according to some experts, but we've never made a mistake in real estate. We're good at it, and we make sometimes as much, even more out of our real estate ventures than we do out of our other businesses.
And then we also have the other side, which is the media, TV, press, newspapers as well. So we do that as part of our business as well.
Where do you get the ideas from for some of the books that you've written? Because they've all been bestsellers recently.
We tend to listen to our audiences because Alan's in front of between 50 to 200,000 people a year doing his seminars. They all come and they all speak to us and they all ask us the same question. So when we get enough of the same question being asked, then that's the area that we'll start researching. We'll say people are really having problems with health, or they're having problems with finance, or whatever the area is, and that will lead us to the next book.
So what are the latest 2 books that are coming out?
Well, we've got the Definitive Book of Body Language, which has just been released, and that's a massive upgrade on the original Body Language book. That's all strategies, techniques of how to do it with people face to face, half in a business role and half in a personal role. And we've got 2 books coming up in the next year. One will be a book on sex, love and romance. Everybody wants to know about sex, love and romance, and that's it. Yeah. The virtual one too. They want to know that in every language, so that should go into 48 languages because they all do it the same way in each country. And we're going to write a book on differences between raising boys and girls. And this is our research material right here.
So a lot of what you write about is based on personal experience as well?
Yeah.
Personal
Absolutely.
science, humour and techniques.
We look at the real things that people experience, and things that happen with us happen to most couples. At the end of the day, a hard day, I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to sit there and look out the window. But Barb's still got enough words to keep on going and going. And back in the early stages, before we understood this, she would be talking, I'd be thinking, well, why doesn't she stop? And she'd be still going, and she'd be thinking, why does this guy listen?
I love him.
That's right, she wants to talk to me, and I understand that, but blokes at the end of the day don't want to talk. Doesn't matter what language they speak, they don't want to talk. So we needed to develop strategies where I'd get a half an hour of what we call fire-gazing time, where I didn't have to talk to anybody, and then she'd have at least a half an hour of talking about her day without me interrupting, telling her what she should have done. That works a treat.
Now you've expanded, you're much bigger overseas than you are in Australia. Australia, in fact, is a fairly small part of what you do now, but making the transition of getting out of Australia, do you want to talk about what challenges you faced?
Well, we had lost all our money and we decided that we needed to recover quickly, and we couldn't recover in Australia being such a tiny market. So we decided we had to choose either between England or the United States. And we liked England, we liked Europe, we liked history, we liked that area better, because America is pretty similar to Australia, whereas England's a bit different. So we decided to go there and make it big and start a business from scratch, which was difficult, but we set the goal and we've achieved it. And not only did we crack the UK, all of Europe came on board as well, and we're huge in places like Germany and Japan and all the small European countries. Our books are huge.
If what we do, Australia is a small market. We've got 20 million people in Australia, and New Zealand's 24 million all up, whereas in Japan there's 80 million, there's 88 million in Germany, there's 66 million in Poland, there's 80 million in the UK. So these are huge markets that we needed, those big markets, to be able to get enough input to make enough money out of it to recover from the fact that, at 45 I was broke, and Australia just wasn't big enough for us to be able to regenerate fast enough, because even though we were both really well known here through books and television, we'd had a saturated market. And people would come to meetings like this one today, and they say, "Oh, we've got all your books, we've got all your cassettes." You say, "Well, that's really great, but you know, it's not very profitable." You can get really thin and don't eat much when people say that. Whereas in England, they say, "We've never heard of you." And when we went to England, people say, "Never heard of you, never heard of your books." We go, "Yes!"
Very exciting.
It's a good market.
And also the way that you don't act like normal book authors or publishers do. You look at it from a different perspective.
We look at it as sales and marketing people. That's what we are. We're sales and marketers, and
First.
we write books for what people want rather than what we think they should have, and that works well for us. We don't put ourselves on a pedestal and say we're famous authors. We are teachers, and we sell and market our books.
It's making sales decisions first, and business decisions first, is profitable. Whereas most people who create a product, you know, like a book is a product, they have a passion for that product, believe everybody should have it, and maybe they should. But if they're not prepared to go and knock you down in a rush to get it, then there's not much point doing it, unless you're doing it for the love of it. And we did some books like that, the books that people should have, and they did well, but we had to sell them. Whereas when you give people what they want, and the way to find out what they want, you ask them. So what do you want? They tell you. So you say, "You mean like this?" And they say, "That's it." Then you go and make one and give it to them at a good price.
Yeah.
And then sell like hell. The bottom line is you've got to sell. I mean, we're authors, and we present ourselves as authors and internationally as celebrities. But the bottom line is all decisions we make behind closed doors are business decisions first.
What advice could you give some people who are trying to achieve their goals, or just advice in general on maybe starting a business?
Well, first is don't decide how you're going to do it. If you're sitting down and think, "Well, how am I going to do this?" Because you can't think of how to do it, people often get disillusioned and don't follow it through. You decide what you're going to do, and it doesn't matter what you decide. If you're capable of doing it, physically capable, you'll be able to think of it. If you can't think of it, that means you're not capable of doing it. That's how the brain works. So if you can think of something, that means you can do it. Now, if you really want to do something, you write down exactly, and you write it down. One of the difference between millionaires and billionaires that stands out in surveys is that billionaires have clearly defined goals in writing. Millionaires have clearly defined goals, not necessarily in writing. So you write it down. You decide that's what you're going to do despite what anybody says, thinks or does.
And never lose control of your dream or goal. Never employ someone and say, "Well, here's my dream and goal, now you go and do it." Because once you hand over the ownership of your goal, people don't have the same goal as you, and it will not be carried through the way that you want to. Delegate by all means, but always keep control, always know where it is, and always keep driving your own ship. Don't let someone else do that.
We didn't do that for one period, we lost a lot. We lost everything.
Well, Alan and Barbara, thanks a lot for joining us on Wealth Creator today.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.